Hello friends, welcome to today's discussion at the Pune International Center on the Aam Aadmi Party. I am Abhay Vaidya, Director PIC. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Vivek Deshpande, former Associate Editor of the Indian Express. The title of his talk is Rise of an Alternative AAP to the Mark, with a question mark. Vivek has been a journalist for more than 3 decades, primarily based out of Nagpur. He is a recipient of numerous awards, such as the Statesman Award for Rural Reporting, Ramnath Goenka Award for reporting on Salwa Judum Vigilante movement in Chhattisgarh, Sanctuary Award for reporting on wildlife, and a number of international awards. He also broke the story on farmers' suicide in Vidarbha in 2002, which, as we all know, led to a massive relief package from the state and central governments. On the panel, we have another senior journalist, Mr. Anand Bagaitkar, former New Delhi Bureau Chief of the Sakal Media Group. Chairing today's session is Dr. Subhashish Gangopadhyay, a friend of Pune International Center and Research Director of India Development Foundation. Professor Gangopadhyay is also the Professor of Emerging Market Finance at Groningen University, Netherlands, and a visiting professor at the Gothenburg School of Business, Sweden. He is a former advisor to the Finance Minister and has been a member of the South Asia Chief Economists Advisory Council of the World Bank. Professor Gangopadhyay is based in Delhi, and his perspectives on AAP would be very important to this discussion. Led by the former Joint Commissioner of Income Tax, Arvind Kejriwal, the Aam Aadmi Party is truly a phenomenon in Indian politics. It has seen a meteoric rise within a matter of just 9 years from the time it was established in November 2012. It has firmly held its ground in New Delhi, where it first came to power in 2013, received a thumping majority in the 2015 midterm elections, and was voted back to power in 2020. Primary healthcare and education, free electricity for the poor, and a crusade against corruption form the key elements of the Aam Aadmi Party's Delhi model of governance. This promise won them power in Punjab recently. Before I hand over the floor to Professor Gangopadhyay, I would like to mention that Pune International Center is now in its 11th year and works in the areas of national security, energy, environment and climate change, social innovation, urbanization and economic reforms, and science, technology, and national innovation ecosystem. We regularly hold webinars, book discussions, and discussions on contemporary issues, and you are most welcome to join these programs by registering on our website, puneinternationalcenter.org. As with all our events, today's discussion also has a Q&A session, and you are welcome to post your questions in the question box. Once again, I wish to welcome all our speakers and panelists, and I now hand over the floor to you, Professor Gangopadhyay.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidya. It's a great honor for me to chair this session with two distinguished reporters and writers and thought leaders in the work that they do. Given the topic, I would just like to raise two issues and stop there, because my major job is to ensure that everybody keeps to time and nothing else. So, but the two issues that I will raise is that given the title of the discussion session is AAP the new alternative, or a possible alternative, I think that it is important for democracy, which by its very nature is very fragile, that the government, which is held accountable every 5 years, so it is better than many other governing systems. But on the other hand, because it is fragile, it needs constant vigilance. And without a strong opposition, that cannot be affected. Therefore, when we talk of AAP as an alternative, will AAP be a national party? Or, initially it was thought that AAP would be restricted to Delhi, given that they had bad outcomes in a few states immediately after that. But now that they have won Punjab, this question obviously comes up that are they spreading and moving towards becoming a national party and hence an alternative at the center. So that's one question I hope will be discussed today. And then second point I want to make is that one of the things about AAP is that Mr. Vaidya just also mentioned that they've completely changed the status quo discourse, right? Because in the status quo discourse, whenever we talk of anything, especially when we talk about certain things that are fundamental to a just and sustainable society, we refer to the shortage of funds. So children stay out of school, we can't build enough schools because there is a shortage of funds, right? We cannot get proper healthcare to everybody, or especially to the rural areas, because there is shortage of funds. We hear it all the time. Now, what the AAP government has done in Delhi, by the way, I'm not from Delhi. I'm a proud Gurugrami. So, but of course, I know a little bit about Delhi because it is too close not to observe what is going on there. But, you know, they gave free electricity, free water, and yet had enough funds to do the health clinics, mohalla clinics, to refurbish all the government schools. They never complained about funds shortage. So we need to change the discourse that we usually carry on. I think these are the two things. If they're discussed, I'll be very happy. With that, I hand it over to Mr. Vivek Deshpande to start this proceedings.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Very good evening to you all. And first of all,
yeah, just a minute, Mr. Vaidya wants to say something.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Vaidya.
I think Vivek is having I think Vivek is having some bandwidth issue. In case you are having a bandwidth issue, Vivek, you can switch off your video and speak, or just see if the bandwidth is okay. Yeah.
I mean, am I visible? Am I audible?
Both. You're both visible and audible.
Both visible and
Okay.
audible.
Now it's fine. Now it's fine.
Okay. So initially, somebody said that it will be a kind of question answer session between me and Mr. Anand Bagatkar. So what am I exactly supposed to do? Should I start?
You can start by addressing the two things that I said, and then Mr. Anand.
Okay. So first of all,
Bagatkar. This is a new name I'm hearing. Sorry, Mr. Bagatkar.
This is a typical Maharashtrian surname.
That tells you about the plurality of India. I'm not.
So thank you very much, everyone. Very good evening to you all. I'm extremely privileged and honored to be talking to such an august gathering. To be very honest, I've never spoken in front of any gathering at all till this date. I have written thousands of words, but not spoken even one. So I only hope that I would measure up to this huge challenge.
Vivek, it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound that you haven't spoken one word.
Thank you very much. So basically, you know, this subject has been making round in the country, especially after the recent assembly elections, when Aam Aadmi Party won a thumping majority in Punjab. Already it has won 2 elections, and the first election also it was a very good performance with 28 seats. Of course, that government fell, and subsequently the next 2 elections, Aam Aadmi Party's won handsomely. I mean, the kind of record that it set is virtually it's not possible for any other party to emulate that in future, I believe. So it was a great success in Delhi twice and once in now Punjab, and as we see, we might see Aam Aadmi Party making huge strides in other states as well, particularly Himachal Pradesh, and who knows, even in Gujarat, with Congress building space that it has in Gujarat to others. So since Aam Aadmi Party has a backdrop of India Against Corruption movement, during which it had an all-India footprint, this success might build on and have a cascading effect in other parts of the country as well. So we are certainly looking at Aam Aadmi Party as as a big alternative. Now, it is an alternative to the BJP or to the Congress. That's a question that everybody will look at in a different way. But it certainly is emerging as an alternative. It's another question whether it is exactly a desirable alternative. It's kind of alternative that we are looking at or looking for. It's a different question we will address during the course of this discussion later. But yes, Mr. Gangopadhyay spoke about the good work that Aam Aadmi Party did and did in Delhi. Everybody knows that, and there are no two opinions about that. It built great government schools and mohalla clinics, and it gave free ride to women in Delhi's metro, and also free electricity, free water. Of course, I mean, the economics of freebies really works in a very different way. So on the face of it, it might look very good, but in long term, whether it really serves the purpose of building the country's economy, I think someone like Mr. Kelkar would be in a better position to deal with that question and tell us more about it. But what I gain from reading people like him is that freebies really do not work in long term. They're not very sustainable and they're damaging to the economy. So on that front, maybe Aam Aadmi Party seems to have done good work as far as people's expectations are concerned, but the expectations of the country's economy are much wider, much bigger than that. So, but we have to look at this record of Aam Aadmi Party, this good governance record of Aam Aadmi Party in a different light as well. Like, is building good schools and good hospitals, is that all about governance? Or governance is a much bigger concept than that, and it incorporates various other socio-economic, socio-political things which which Aam Aadmi Party has really not come up very well delineating during its governance in Delhi. So that also we will discuss for the next few minutes. But certainly we have to thank Aam Aadmi Party for the good work that it has done, and we have to commend it as well. So that was about the 2 points that Mr. Gangopadhyay raised. And if we can go further with this discussion, I would like Mr. Bagayatkar to take it forward and just guide me what I have to say further.
Shall I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, again, what Mr. Gangopadhyay and Mr. Deshpande has said, I will speak more on the real politics. Being a what Mr. Gangopadhyay has said, being a reporter, obviously, how the emergence of Aam Aadmi Party and the way they are really going forward. So I will just make some observations, and then Mr. Deshpande or Mr. Gangopadhyay or Dr. Kelkar, they can make comments on that. First and foremost is that yes, Aam Aadmi Party has expanded itself to Punjab. That is the reality. They have got such a huge mandate in Punjab after Delhi, and I think Aam Aadmi Party will be the really, I think maybe the first regional outfit which has actually governed a small state, a metro city state like Delhi, but they have expanded themselves to a neighboring state like Punjab. And no other regional party has really achieved that thing. That is observation number one. So really, it's a creditable thing for Aam Aadmi Party, and credit obviously goes to their governance in Delhi, because their main plank in Punjab was the good governance they have done in Delhi. That is one thing. The second, we have to look at their victory in Punjab in a perspective, because though they have done very good work in Delhi, they have done four things as a journalist and as a citizen of Delhi. I can very well state that one is the school. Most really they have done a very good thing on the front of schools. And Delhi administration schools are really running well. They are well equipped, and they have actually increased the number of classes. That is how they have really achieved this goal of accommodating more and more students from even middle class families also, who actually tend to send their children to public schools. But now the trend has really reversed in Delhi, and people are now tend to send their children to the Delhi administration schools also. So that is really a creditable work they have done. Then Mohalla clinics, which you have mentioned, and Professor Gangopadhyay has also mentioned, and Bijli and Pani, electricity and water. Means my driver used to show me the electricity bill. कि देखिए साहब, zero bill आया है. So they have done, means whatever they have promised, they have done. And I think that really gave them a big boost in Punjab, where the Punjab electorate, who were really exhausted, fatigued by the Congress and Akali Dal misrule, because Akali Dal regime was really actually, one can say, it was completely, it was a corrupt governance, corrupt government, corruption was at the peak, and people were really fed up. And that is why they actually brought Congress and Captain Amrinder Singh with some hope. But Congress did not did justice to their expectation. And we all know how they treated Amrinder Singh, and the new chief minister was brought in. And there were bickerings and infighting in Congress to such an extent that they lost miserably. And obviously, the electorate, who were really fed up with these two parties, they were looking at some alternative which can really give them some relief. And they saw Aam Aadmi Party coming forward, giving some relief, offering them some good governance, corruption-free governance. So they opted for Aam Aadmi Party. But now, as a journalist, and we are all are thinking people, you see, Punjab is a completely independent state. It is not a metro city state like Delhi, because in Delhi government has got only health, education, primary education, and I think 6-7 portfolios they have with them. But the law and order and other important portfolios, they don't have with them. So now the real test of Aam Aadmi Party and their governance model will be in Punjab. And we all will have to see whether they can fulfill their promises the way they have done in Delhi. Because they will have their own law and order machinery in their hands, finance department, full-fledged law and order, full-fledged finance portfolio, and all other important ministries. So one has to see whether they can really succeed in fulfilling their promises, what they have promised in their manifesto. Another thing which I am really worried as a journalist, not as a journalist, but as an observer. Yesterday only we had that riot in Patiala, I think Patiala only. Because when you have a government in Delhi, union government in Delhi, which is not friendly and which has got tendencies not to allow the opposition ruled states to really govern in the way they want or whatever they have promised, then the confrontation and these problems arise. And that is why Punjab also is a state having boundary with Pakistan. So security issue is also very important as far as Punjab and the governance of Punjab is concerned. So I think these are the real challenges which Aam Aadmi Party government will face. And when what I am saying that the government in Delhi, which is not that friendly with uh, uh, opposition ruled states, then really the test will be how Aam Aadmi Party will govern Punjab. And another thing is on the political side, Aam Aadmi Party and their leadership, they really want to, I think, replace or put themselves in a place where people can choose between them and BJP. At the same time, they really want to show people that they are a better party than all these ghisi parties, opposition parties like Congress and others who actually ruled in alliance as well as independently this country. So they also want to show that they want to replace BJP, and that is why we can see Mr. Kejriwal just imitating Mr. Narendra Modi, propagating yoga, propagating or the speech he gave after Punjab victory, that why our students go abroad, referring to Russia-Ukraine conflict. He said that the same words which Mr. Narendra Modi used. So he is following Mr. Narendra Modi in a very subtle way, presenting himself as an alternative. That really, one has to think whether Aam Aadmi Party really have a independent thinking philosophy, or they want to imitate a certain political ideology, which will give them political dividends, political profit, political advantage. I think these are my observations about Aam Aadmi Party. We can very well go on with others' presentation. Thank you.
Anant, I agree on most of the points that you have raised. In fact, the point of ideology was to me the most important. Of course, how the Aam Aadmi Party is going to take its governance forward in states like Punjab is a big question. I had raised that point in the article that I wrote on this subject in the Scroll, which was also published by Lok Sabha subsequently, that ruling in Delhi is one thing and ruling in a full-fledged state like Punjab or any other state is completely another. So it's a different ball game altogether. Now, in Punjab, as you referred to this Patiala incident, how Aam Aadmi Party is going to deal with such issues, that we would have to see. We cannot say that they won't be able to deal with it. Let's give them some time and let's see if they can certainly do that. Yeah. But then, on the larger ideological point, where does AAP stand? Does AAP have any ideology? Why I'm asking this question is very pertinent because you see, Aam Aadmi Party's rise has been concurrent with the rise of BJP under Narendra Modi. They started their regimes simultaneously into around 2014-15. And as BJP's model of governance progressed over the last 8 years, Aam Aadmi Party has also undergone several changes. And I tend to think that those changes were in response to the model that BJP evolved over the years. I mean, in many ways, as you rightly pointed out, the Aam Aadmi Party is trying to mimic the BJP. You pointed out how he is trying to project himself on the lines of Mr. Modi. And the first time he did it, that was he stood for election in Banaras opposite Modi. So he started challenging, he started projecting himself as a challenge to Mr. Modi. And you have heard his speeches of late where he is referring to himself as Kejriwal, much like Mr. Modi, who would refer to himself as Modi. Modi आया है तो अभी भ्रष्टाचारी लोग 100 बार सोचेंगे भ्रष्टाचार करने से पहले. Those were Mr. Modi's words. So he talks about himself in his own, with taking his own name. Similarly, Mr. Kejriwal, after his Punjab victory, that speech which he was virtually giving to the entire audience on TV in the country, where he says ये लोग केजरीवाल को एक्सट्रीमिस्ट बताते थे, लेकिन जनता जानती है कि केजरीवाल सच्चा देशभक्त है. So there is beginning of this personality cult already in the Aam Aadmi Party, which of course had started way back in 2013-14 when Mr. Kejriwal sidelined all top shots, other top shots in Aam Aadmi Party. So it had begun in right earnest at that time only, and he's only taking it forward. Another example of this is that when Mr. Maan became the chief minister recently, about a month ago, Mr. Kejriwal held a meeting of top Punjab bureaucrats in Delhi, which was criticized by political analysts. He had no business to conduct a meeting of Punjab bureaucrats.
Punjab bureaucrats, absolutely.
Yeah, that was absolutely uncalled for, but he did that. So the element of remote control has already set in. Another thing, the element of psychophancy has also set in. How? Responding to criticism of Mr. Kejriwal holding the meeting of Punjab bureaucrats, Mr. Maan said, "Usme kya hai? Main aur bhejunga." So the element of psychophancy has also set in. So personality cult is in full flow in Aam Aadmi Party. From that perspective, can we really say that Aam Aadmi Party is coming up as some kind of an alternative to the BJP, because BJP is all about personality cult, as we all know. I mean, if anybody differs with me on this count, then I would certainly like to know why. And on the front of on the front of communalism, that is the bigger challenge, and that is where Aam Aadmi Party comes a cropper. Aam Aadmi Party has been projecting itself with a soft Hindutva brand, with Mr. Kejriwal chanting Hanuman Chalisa, and then he is tweeting Jai Shri Ram after the first Jatha of Yatris came back from Ayodhya, a free trip which he had arranged for the elders in Delhi for Ayodhya. So when they came back, he tweeted Jai Shri Ram, and then when he gave his speech in Punjab after that election, he said, "मैं अभी हनुमान बजरंग बली के मंदिर से आया हूँ." So he's trying to mimic the BJP in a bid to counter it. So he is not trying to wriggle out of this problem of communalism and try to come up with some kind of an alternative to this. Why do we need an alternative is the question. Why are we looking for an alternative? If at all we are looking for an alternative, why are we looking for an alternative? That's the question. And that question, the answer to that question is, for the last 8-9 years, we have seen erosion of constitutional values in this country. We are witnessing constitutional values being trampled upon with audacity and with impunity. And even minister rank people are saying कि हमको constitution बदलना है. There was this minister called Hegde. I'm sorry. At center, he's no more the minister. He was removed. He had said कि हम constitution बदलेंगे. So this fear about BJP will change the constitution of India if it comes to power in full flow is certainly coming true. And then there was this minister in Karnataka called Ishwarappa. He said, we will replace the saffron flag, the tricolor with saffron flag, right? And then recently a minister from Uttar Pradesh said, कि जो लोग हिंदी नहीं बोलेंगे उनको देश छोड़कर जाना होगा. So we are witnessing the Hindu Rashtra agenda being implemented in full flow, with the government either directly or indirectly supporting it. Government, I mean the Narendra Modi government. So, see, do we need good governance? Yes, we do need good governance. But do we need good governance by ignoring these socio-economic and socio-political realities which we are facing today? What is the biggest problem before this country? The biggest problem before this country is virulent, very venomous communalism that is being spread to every nook and corner of the country. We have seen lynchings, we have seen attacks on Muslims, the recent riots in Jahangirpuri. What was AAP's stand on Jahangirpuri? What did it do? You know,
No.
we have seen we have heard Mr. Sisodia saying कि riots वहाँ होते हैं जहाँ Bangladeshi Muslims जहाँ रहते हैं, Rohingyas जहाँ रहते हैं.
Rohingyas, they
Rohingyas.
just brought in Rohingyas also.
Yeah. So
Not,
they are
not
now.
only that, but Atishi, Atishi, their MLA, she went to Jahangir Puri where a mandir was to be demolished, and she said, no, we will not allow mandir to be demolished, which was completely
Right.
unauthorized. And
Yeah.
MCD had issued a notice that it should be demolished. But Atishi, very close to Arvind Kejriwal, she went there and stopped the demolition.
So that clearly shows that they are trying to be mirror image of the BJP in a bid to win away those Hindu voters from the BJP. You see, in Delhi elections, something happened which we have not witnessed in any other parts of the country. Like in Delhi, there was such a clear-cut division of victories. In Lok Sabha, all 7 MPs belonged to the BJP. They all won, and Aam Aadmi Party could not win a single seat. In Assembly, it was all Aam Aadmi Party. So clearly, the same set of voters have shifted from BJP to Aam Aadmi Party when it came to Assembly elections. And so it is the same set of voters, and Aam Aadmi Party knows it very well that they cannot kind of displease this section of the people which has voted for them. Which is this section? This section is largely Hindu population.
Can I step in here, please? Can I step in?
Yeah, please.
The topic of the discussion is AAP an alternative, right? So,
right.
I think you're trying to compare AAP with BJP. That is not the discussion. The discussion is, even if AAP behaves like the BJP, can it be an alternative to the BJP? That's the question. Yes, because he's obviously playing a political game, so that every politician will. So that's no big deal. The question is, will AAP be an alternative? So I think
I'll answer that question.
Not the ideologies of AAP, whether you like it or not, or whether it is an alternative good that we would want. That's not the issue. The issue is AAP an alternative?
Yeah, I'll come to that. I think the answer to that question is yes, it is an alternative, because it is not something which you and I will decide. People will decide. If people have decided to vote AAP in, then they will certainly be an alternative, and we are seeing a distinct possibility of that happening. So it will be an alternative. My point was whether it's a desirable alternative or not. On that count, I feel it certainly doesn't look like a very desirable alternative. But if what Aam Aadmi Party is doing of late by mimicking the BJP on the Hindutva side, if this is just a stepping stone to wrest power and then change the narrative, like it did during the India Against Corruption days, when India Against Corruption was transformed into a political party. The similar debate had come up when the selection of candidates was going on. There was this debate whether we choose very clean candidates at all places, or we can choose any candidates who have the potential to win and who have the potential to bring in a lot of money to fight the elections. So on that front, as we all know, there was big dispute between people like Prashant Bhushan, Mr. Kejriwal. Mr. Kejriwal was for a very practical approach. Now, if we try to be practical about practicing our politics, then you can certainly go for all kinds of compromises. But if you make those compromises and then go ahead and form a government, then can we expect you to change the narrative after that? Did Aam Aadmi Party change the narrative of corruption in this country? You see, there has been a lot of corruption even after Mr. Modi rose to power in 2014. We have seen crony capitalism. We have seen Rafael deal on which still the jury is still out. We have seen so many things. In Karnataka, we have seen cases of corruption coming up in many other BJP states. So Mr. Kejriwal is making statements that मैं सारा कुछ सह सकता हूँ, मैं corruption नहीं सह सकता. But has he, like the case of electoral funds, for example, what is Mr. Kejriwal's stand on that? So if you are using certain practical politics as a stepping stone to come into government and then change the narrative, then I can understand it. but has he changed the narrative on corruption? So what is the guarantee that by using this soft Hindutva, he will come to power and then change it? So the record of the Aam Aadmi Party is not very straight on that count. That is the point I want to make.
Yes, can I say something?
Please, please.
Professor, sir? Professor?
Please, the discussion is between the two of you. I just interrupted the flow, that's all.
No, it's okay. No. I thought that if you want to say something, you can very well come in.
No.
No. Yes, Vivek, what you have mentioned is most of the points I agree. But another thing one has to keep in mind that when you are expanding yourself from one state to another state, you see, political party is not just a crowd of a few people or few leaders. They have some structure in Delhi, but Aam Aadmi Party as a party, they don't have structure, they don't have organization, they don't have constitution. If Miss I agree that there are many regional parties and they are basically family-run parties, but they have a proper structure. NCP has a structure, Samajwadi Party has a structure, but what structure Aam Aadmi Party has? Means I know from means it's a first-hand information that they don't have. Because only Kejriwal is the convener. Means he doesn't call him president or the chief of the party, but he calls himself convener of the Aam Aadmi Party. But what about the other party organs? Because if you really expand yourself in a bigger party, then you must have a proper structure. Because in India, it is not just like an agitation. The agitation from the agitation of Anna Hazare, which the emergence of Aam Aadmi Party has taken place. So every time it is not an agitation. So Aam Aadmi Party or Mr. Kejriwal. Otherwise, Miss here I will give an example of Bahujan Samaj Party. Bahujan Samaj Party, they tried when Kashiram was alive, he was very well keen to expand Bahujan Samaj Party beyond Uttar Pradesh, because basically they had Uttar Pradesh in mind. And Kashiram's idea was that once we capture Uttar Pradesh, the biggest state in India, then we can very well expand to Hindi belt, other things. So leave it. But take the example of Bahujan Samaj Party. They could not expand beyond Uttar Pradesh. In Madhya Pradesh, they had some inroads, but again, the leaders they chose to lead their party in Madhya Pradesh, they defected or they floated their own outfits and they deserted Bahujan Samaj Party. In fact, Kashiram, who was from Punjab, and in Punjab also, Bahujan Samaj Party had some strength earlier. But look what happened in this election. Means Akali Dal had an alliance with Bahujan Samaj Party, keeping in view a large chunk of Dalit Sikh votes to get them, but they could not. So Bahujan Samaj Party is an example. One can really think over it. And then if you compare Aam Aadmi Party with Bahujan Samaj Party, if they really want to expand themselves beyond Delhi and Punjab, because they are now trying to go into Haryana, because Arvind Kejriwal, what we learned as reporters and correspondents, that he actually wants to capture Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, and just want to encircle Delhi. So he will try to get foothold in Haryana. This time he will try to win some seats in Haryana and then expand. So he has that plan in mind. But again, the question remains that Aam Aadmi Party, they have got Bhagwan Singh Maan, but I should not say anything about Bhagwan Singh Mann because he is now an honorable Chief Minister of Punjab. But I have seen him as a member of Parliament, in Parliament, how he behaves, how serious he is, that apart. But in Punjab also, means I remember the statement of Mr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, who is Vice President of BJP, and in one private conversation he did admit that BJP had lack of intellectual leadership. That is what he said, and that deficit, intellectual deficit, which is reflected in the Union Council of Ministers, that really shows. And the same problem is with Aam Aadmi Party. Even Punjab also, I don't think that they have got a good stuff as ministers, and that is why the test will be whether they can govern Punjab properly, whatever they have promised, and we have to see. And again, I am really worried what has happened yesterday. And the people sitting in Delhi, especially in the North Block, they will not allow this government to govern freely. What they have done in Delhi, they will repeat it in Punjab. What they are doing in Maharashtra, they will repeat it in Punjab.
Definitely.
And that is why the real worry will be to survive, and for survival, whether Mr. Arvind Kejriwal will follow Mr. Modi model, BJP model, or he will develop his own model, which he developed in Delhi, which succeeded. But what we see now is the change or a, change from that good governance to Hanuman Chalisa, to Hanuman Mandir, Bajrang Bali, Sri Ram, and yoga, all that. And arousing nationalist feeling, saying that why should our children should go to Ukraine for study. So he is very cleverly, playing these cards, which BJP, means not BJP, but Modi played before coming to power. So I think he is following Modi at one level. He is following BJP at one level. So how long can he just follow these models and will really get, will really succeed, in expanding Aam Aadmi Party? Because we don't know who is their leader in Haryana, who is their leader in.
That's a very, very important point. That's a very important point. See, besides Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Sisodia, even in Delhi, I don't know who other people are. Forget about Haryana, forget about Punjab, there are new entrants there. But who besides Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Sisodia in Delhi? So if you want to really come up with an alternative, you certainly need to have a good number. Yeah. That badly missing. That's a very important point. Yes.
And now look at.
May I raise an issue here again, please?
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Sisodia is, of course, sort of the second in command in Delhi, SAP, and has looked after education. But there is a health minister, and the Mohalla clinics were not done by Sisodia. So whether we hear his name or not, there is a health minister. So why are we saying that there is lack of talent? Because they have only 4 or 5 portfolios, right? They don't have many.
Delhi is, Delhi, they have got only health, education, and these 3-4 portfolios. That is okay. What you are saying is absolutely right. But when you are, you want to expand yourself beyond Delhi and now beyond Punjab, then again, you just can't expand yourself having Kejriwal as a head or as a survey serva, and then there is nothing below. Just 3-4 people, good ministers. Are they good organizers? We don't know.
To play the devil's advocate. Congress has been doing it for a very long time, and BJP is doing it currently. So why can't AAP do it in the future?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you cannot take it away from them. They have a lot of time ahead of them, and who knows, they might develop a very good leadership in other states as well. So let's grant it to them. Let's wait.
No, we really want that there should be some good alternative,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people really are, they are fed up with this Gisi Piti party, of
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and the way they are fighting between themselves means, sorry, I'm just slightly digressing myself, but why people are fed up means, I referred to the corruption of Akali government. Then came Amrinder Singh. There was a lot of expectation from a person of a stature of Mr. Amrinder Singh, but he was, now this is a discussion, very formal discussion. I can't reveal many things which we heard about Mr. Amrinder Singh, his Maharaja style of functioning. Obviously, people said that why we don't want Maharaja, we want a leader who will listen to us, who will hear our problems and who will act on them and who will deliver.
right.
Just image of a Maharaja will not help to get votes now. So, so in that context, Aam Aadmi Party is really making, themselves, putting themselves before the electorate, that they are something different, and they are getting some success out of it. But again, I say that means, once Kejriwal invited some senior journalists, I was also one of them, and we had a long chat, 2 hours chat over lunch. And while while leaving, Kejriwal asked me, अरे आनंद भाई, हमको महाराष्ट्र में और मुंबई में, गोवा में जरा अच्छे लोग दे दो ना. So I said, Anand Bagatkar can't give you अच्छे लोग. You will have to go there. You will have to find yourself who are the good people, who are the good workers, who are the good organizers. Because what we are facing again is a simile or an example like Raj Thakre. It's a one-man party, and suddenly he gets up when some election is there, and Raj Thakre starts his campaign with mimicry and with some nautanki and other things, and people gather, people clap, they laugh, and okay, when elections are over, MNS doesn't get some may get some few seats, and after that Raj Thakre goes into hibernation. So I told Kejriwal that you will have to go there, you will have to send someone, you will have to make some people in charge of a state like other big parties do, that they will go there, general secretary in charge of certain states, they will go there, they will find good people, and like that. Again, I say that there has to be a structure, which Aam Aadmi Party absolutely, it is absent in Aam Aadmi Party, and that is why it's a, again, big question mark. That Punjab, it is, I don't consider this victory as an Aam Aadmi Party victory. I still think that it is a, people were fed up of Congress and Akali Dal, and that is why they gave mandate to Aam Aadmi Party. It is a one way. Whenever there is a wave and people are really angry, you get such mandates like what we saw in West Bengal. So okay,
Should we?
you get a mandate, but to ride on that mandate is a real test, and we have to see that.
So Vivek, and if you have anything to add, because we have some questions from the audience,
Yeah.
which we may want to take up.
One last point, one small point. See, the topic of today's discussion is rise of an alternative up to the mark. There's a question mark whether Aam Aadmi Party does really make that grade to be an alternative. So I have elaborated on it in the earlier part of the session. All I would say is we want an alternative. I mean, whether it can be an alternative, yes, it can be. If people vote for it, it will come up as an alternative. But whether it will be an alternative up to the mark, means up to the expectations, larger expectations of this nation, then the obvious answer is it has absolutely not demonstrated anything till date that will inspire this confidence in the common public. The situation, the socio-economic and the socio-political situation in the country today is so bad. I mean, Mr. Pratap Bhanu Mehta said that we are hurtling into an abyss. Sorry. So what we need is an alternative which will restore the constitutional values and which will stop this trampling of the constitutional values of the country and restore sanity to the socio-political, socio-economic life of this country. For now, Aam Aadmi Party doesn't really look like a party which will be able to measure up to that challenge. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
One of the questions that has come up is the following. And, I'm not going to call out the names because the first question that catches my eye is an anonymous attendee. So I will stick to that and not call out the names of the people who asked the questions. So, but the question is, will AAP be able to acquire enough funds to fight elections at a national level? Both of you touched on it in passing, but would you want to say anything on that?
I think Mr. Bagaidkar should be more equipped to answer this question because he has seen Aam Aadmi Party from very close quarters.
This is regarding funds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will they be able to raise enough funds to fight elections at a national level?
Yeah. Aam Aadmi Party means whatever I know means I'm not saying that I know everything, but at least for Delhi and Punjab, they had got enough funds, and they have funds, no doubt about that. And they are means as a party, they are not Aam Aadmi Party, but they are a rich Aadmi Party.
I can just add to that. I was talking to one of the former leaders of Aam Aadmi Party who parted ways, and I asked him about the same point. So I'm just telling you what he told me. During the formative years of Aam Aadmi Party, also there was no dearth of funds. What he told me was that बहुत सारे व्यापारी पैसे की गड्डियां लेकर आते थे उस समय भी. So as far as funds are concerned, Aam Aadmi Party will certainly not have any problems, I think.
Not Aam Aadmi, but rich Aadmi Party.
The second question also you have touched upon, though in passing, so it's maybe you can dig a little bit deeper into that. It says, is there any possibility for AAP to garner the support of other non-BJP parties without which they cannot become a genuine alternative? So there are two statements over here. One is that they cannot become a genuine alternative without the support of other non-BJP parties. So thereby signifying that they want an alternative to the BJP.
Certainly,
And the second.
Go ahead, please.
No, please.
I think they have a long way to go. I mean, to become an alternative, even to the Congress, they have a long way to go, I believe. And as Mr. Bagaidkar rightly said, they have no organizational structure anywhere in other part of the country. So you can't expect an Aam Aadmi Party wave everywhere like we saw in Punjab, and it will be a while before they really get some big foothold in states, other states, especially in the south. So yes, unless and until they have some kind of a collaboration with regional parties, they will not be able to make it big, at least in the near future.
May I add something?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
You see, to become an alternative and to have power at the center, you have to have a pan-Indian outlook, pan-Indian ideology, which Aam Aadmi Party doesn't have. One may like it or not like it. They don't have pan-India ideology or philosophy. That is one thing. Second, recently Kejriwal has said that if some alliance or some coming together of opposition parties, like-minded parties, we will ready to cooperate with that alliance. That is what Mr. Kejriwal has agreed upon. But I still remember that whenever the meetings of these like-minded non-BJP opposition parties took place, and when he was invited, Kejriwal never attended. I think once he attended, but that was a very small gathering of leaders, Mamta, Sharad Pawar, Arvind Kejriwal, and 2, 3 others. But he never attended, or he doesn't want to seen or shown himself in the company of others, because you all know that when that Anna Hazare agitation was going on, Mr. Kejriwal was the person who at Jantar Mantar, who displayed the pictures of all these leaders, opposition leaders, including Sharad Pawar, Mamta Banerjee, and some Congress leaders, and telling all the audience that how they are corrupt, and if we come to power, we will just punish them and all that. So it will be difficult for Mr. Kejriwal to sit in the company of these opposition leaders. And whatever you see, idealism is something different than the real body politic. But Kejriwal understood it, or maybe he was understanding it, but he used Anna Hazare to, to make his own party and becoming Delhi chief minister. So he will take his own time, but now slowly he is mellowing down, and he has said that he will cooperate with the non-BJP like-minded opposition parties, because his fight, he himself thinks that his fight is with BJP, and that is why he is following certain things which we mentioned and discussed in our discussion. Thank you.
We're coming towards the end, but there is one question I do want you to address. You talked about the organizational structure for the party to be able to spread beyond Delhi and even now Punjab, which can maybe controllable from Delhi, but not if there are more states to control. So, but the BJP is very much a cadre-based party. And one of the things about AAP, which I must say, is that because I meet with a lot of students on a daily basis, and I meet with them even today, it's amazing to see the number of these young people who are actually in the AAP, right? So, yes, they still don't have a cadre in the sense that the BJP has, or even the CPM at one time had, right? Or the communist parties at one time had. But there are a lot of youth who are actually card-carrying members of AAP, which has come as a big surprise to me over the last 4 or 5 years. So the question is or will AAP be successful without being cadre-based?
I'm not saying that they should have a cadre-based structure, means like CPM or BJP. And BJP also nowadays, BJP has also becoming a mass-based party, because lot of outsiders are entering BJP. Their real strength of organization is RSS, because RSS is their backbone. RSS uses its pracharak, swayamsevaks, whatever you call them. So the organizational backup of BJP is RSS, and that is a solid organizational backup to BJP. And that is how in Uttar Pradesh, or especially in the Hindi belt, they are getting a lot of votes and big victories. That is the main reason of BJP's organizational strength. Aam Aadmi Party, yes, I agree that many youth, means in large number, youths are getting attracted towards Aam Aadmi Party. But again, channelizing this power into a proper organizational structure means there are good people in Aam Aadmi Party, even their spokespersons are very well educated, and they are really very articulate also. Means I know Atishi and their spokespersons. Means they are all our friends, but it's a very limited. Means Delhi is a very limited kind of a place where you can, yes, in Delhi you can do. whatever you want. But when you expand, Miss, for instance, when Kejriwal asked me that Mumbai ke liye are hame koi acha aadmi de do, ab Mumbai and Delhi, means Mumbai for Mumbai or for Maharashtra, means they are trying to now creep in or entering in Gujarat and Maharashtra. These are completely different states. They are not Delhi, they are not Punjab, because Delhi and Punjab, they have some connections, very close. But Maharashtra and Gujarat, they are completely different. So Arvind Kejriwal will have to see that he should put proper persons in charge of these states, where they will go, they will meet people, they will organize some, because I have seen many parties how they emerged as a party. With making a party is not a simple thing. So he will have to have some organizational setup, leave aside structure, some organizational setup, which will really give him, you know, a scope to expand beyond Delhi and Punjab. That is my point. Thank
Vivek,
you.
any final thoughts?
Yeah, may I make a small point here about
Yes,
the
please.
cadre, about a party being a cadre-based party. Now, BJP is certainly a cadre-based party, like the communist parties are. But cadres can be.
Were. They no
Hello.
longer are.
Yeah. Okay. So, being a cadre-based party is certainly desirable in many ways, but in some other ways, it is certainly not desirable. Why I'm saying this is because if BJP is banking upon its cadres, then it has to all the time bank upon its parent organization, that is the RSS. So it works as long as the RSS, it commands respect from the RSS. Why I'm saying this is because in 2004, when Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government lost, many people thought that it was because of the silly Shining India campaign and all that. But you know, the people who understand RSS from within, they would not vouch for it. I had spoken to a very senior RSS leader a few years ago and had asked him about why Vajpayee's government lost, despite being a good government. I mean, it was one of the better governments India has seen over the years. It was not like the recent BJP regime. So he said, you know why he lost? He said he lost because he didn't care for Hindutva. So the subtle message in that response was that we ensured that he would lose that. And the then Sarsanghi Chalak, Mr. K. Sudarshan, had said it so many words that Mr. Vajpayee and Mr. Advani should make way for new blood in an interview with Mr. Shekhar Gupta. I was witness to that because I was in Indian Express at that time. So if you are dependent on a cadre base which can turn any way, if you are not in agreement or they are not in agreement with you, then it can be very dangerous also. But instead of being a cadre-based party, if you are an organization-based party with a lot of network of workers across the country, then it certainly helps. It has helped the Congress for several decades. Of course, that is in a shambles now. that's why Congress is in a bad shape. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
And a small point.
A quick point.
Just a small point that even for a cadre-based party, you must have an proper ideology.
Ideology, yes.
Which
because that was evidence. That is evident in Bengal, because all the CPM cadres became Didi's cadres overnight. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe Aam Aadmi Party would say that good governance is our ideology.
So, but yeah.
I'm sorry this discussion could go on, because not only is it an important area, it's also one that clearly allows us to look on what is that called, crystal ball gazing, because we all probably want an alternative. As I said, for democracy it is essential to have an opposition, and at the moment there doesn't seem to be any, and therefore any alternative is an alternative is welcome. What I gather from the two of you is that probably AAP is not up to the mark as yet. They could be, but for that they have to do a few things which they're yet to do, right? And the two things that you talked about, one is a clear ideology, or three things I would say. One is a clear ideology, two is a pan-India outlook, and three is an organizational structure. And in that context, I think Punjab would be a good experiment because Delhi was largely urban. And much of the things they have been talking about from the very beginning are focused on urban. They got an opportunity during the farmers' protests, and they did try to play a role there. And I guess that's how they got into Punjab. But, you know, it's easier to build urban schools than it is to get, rural schools functional. It's easier to build Mohalla clinics in cities than to get health centers in remote rural areas. So, I'm sure that Punjab would be a very good experiment, would be a very good thing to follow for us to see how they operate there, which also you two said. Now, thank you very much. It was a most, how should I put it, exciting discussion, especially coming from people who have their ears to the ground, because we only read what you tell us, you actually hear what you write. So in that sense, it was very illuminating. I would like to thank both of you and PIC for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Professor Gangopadhyay. You summed it up so well that really there's nothing more that one could add to what you've said. Thank you, Vivek, for presenting your very rich perspective and understanding of the Aam Aadmi Party. And from Mr. Anand Bagaitkar, we got a really picture from the grassroots, from the ground, because he has such a firm understanding of AAP, having been a journalist in Delhi for so many years. Dr. Kelkar, would you like to make any comment?
Only one comment, if you permit. First is thank all of our speakers today, Vivek, Anand and Subhashish. I think it was extremely stimulating. One issue, perhaps because of lack of time, didn't come up, but which I think is going to be decisive, is the inner party democracy, because I think the great parties heavily depend on the degree of democracy within their own parties. And maybe we should have one more round of discussion, that role of inner party democracy in building parties. So, yeah. But I want to thank all of our speakers today.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We are definitely going to have more opportunities to discuss Aam Aadmi Party and other parties. Sometime back, we had a discussion on the BJP. And I would like to mention to the members of our audience that our next event is on 4th May at 6 p.m. And the member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, will be our guest speaker. He will be speaking on the government strategy and policies towards achieving the target of $5 trillion economy by 2025. This event will be chaired by Dr. Ajit Ranade, who is Vice Chancellor of the Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. And we will have senior journalist Mr. Shankar Iyer as a discussant in this discussion. You are most welcome to participate in this program by registering for it. And I wish to thank finally our members of audience for their questions, which helped enrich this discussion. Thank you very much to our panelists, to Professor Gangopadhyay for sharing this.
I'm sorry, Sorry, I forgot to say one thing. I'm very, very sorry. I have to apologize for not having taken all the questions for lack of time. But I also must call out Srinivas Kelkar, because he had put up a question and then said later that his question has already been addressed. This is remarkable, and I would like to thank him for saving time. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelkar.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So with this, I announce the end of this program. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.